Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are stepping into a moment so strange, so quiet, and so cold, it never finished happening. You're not standing in a ruin. You're not even brushing dust off old bones. You're walking among giants who never fell. Their bodies tilted mid-step, their trunks still raised, their breath still half-held. And you probably won't survive, because the storm that did this wasn't a blizzard or a sandstorm. It was both. It was something else. And it didn't just bury the mammoths, it froze them so fast that one of them still has a beetle crawling on its lip. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You step into the basin with bare feet, and the first thing you notice isn't the heat, it's the silence. There's no wind here. No buzzing flies, not even the creak of cooling rocks. The desert around you is all orange and ochre and long shadows, but at the center of it, frozen defiant wrong, is a woolly mammoth. Mid-stride, one leg in the air, trunk curved like a question mark. Not a fossil, not a sculpture, something else. You blink, her eye is open. It's not glossy or petrified, it's just dry. Like it ran out of tears long ago and gave up. And around her, scattered like abandoned ideas, are the rest of the herd. Young ones, old ones, a massive bull, with cracked tusks tilted forward as if he meant to shout but forgot the words. Scientists still debate whether this event was caused by a freak flash freeze, an atmospheric collapse, or something more regional, like a pyroclastic storm with ice instead of fire. But let's be honest, none of those quite explain the positioning. These mammoths didn't fall, they didn't die in piles, they stopped. You reach out and touch one. The fur crumbles like overcooked toast under your fingers, but underneath it's not stone, it's still fur. Still mammoth, still real. Now, here's a weird fact in 2020. A Russian reindeer herder found a mammoth calf with intact internal organs and a clump of 39,000-year-old grass in its mouth. It's not just the freezing that's strange, it's how fast it must have happened. And what kind of storm sneaks up on something the size of a city bus? You wander through the herd slowly. None of them look afraid. That's the other thing. There's no flailing, no thrashing, no collapse. One is even curled up on its knees like it was going to sleep. Another is frozen while turning, just gently shifting its weight from one foot to the other. It's like the moment of decision was interrupted by eternity. The wind picks up behind you, but it's not today's wind. It smells like ash and sweetgrass. It's too cold for this climate. You turn and see nothing, just dunes and dry ribs of old mountains. But the shadow stays on your neck, and your spine registers it before your brain does. One mammoth calf not far from your feet is barely taller than you. Its fur is streaked with reddish clay like it rolled in blood-orange mud before the freeze. Its eyes are closed. You almost expect it to breathe. You kneel beside it and notice something small stuck to its tusk. A single broken feather. Not mammoth, not predator. Possibly bird. But it hasn't decayed. It should have dissolved centuries ago, and yet here it is like the storm caught time in a net and hasn't let go. Remember when humans evolved? This is one of those moments when you realize time didn't move us forward. It dodged something. You weren't meant to be here, not really. If this storm had turned just a few degrees south, maybe your entire species would be stuck mid-blink right now. The sun leans lower, casting longer fingers across the land, and the mammoths start to look less like statues and more like accusations. Why didn't they run? Why didn't they cry out? Why did the biggest, warmest creatures in the Ice Age just stop? You circle back to the matriarch, the one with the questioning trunk, and notice something buried at her feet. You dig gently with your hands and uncover a single smooth stone. It's not from this desert. It's glacial. Scratched and etched by ice movement, possibly carried by her, possibly dropped by someone else. Either way, it's been here as long as she has, and under it more strange things. A broken piece of obsidian, A toothed human maybe, or Neanderthal? You can't tell. It's been polished smooth by whatever ancient wind wrapped this place in its final breath. Off to the side, a hollowed gully shows signs of dragging. A few bones here, a rib there, and one full tusk snapped at the base. Not all were frozen, some were buried later, some were scavenged. But those at the center? They're exactly where they were when the sky went quiet. You lean against one of the larger mammoths and close your eyes. And for just a moment you hear it. The wind. Not today's wind, but a layered, multi-voiced scream like a cave exhaling centuries. You hear hooves. You hear thunder. And then absolutely nothing. Not even your heartbeat. A silence that pushes inward. And just like that, it's gone. You open your eyes and see only desert again. But the air smells like frozen pine just for a second. The desert doesn't whisper with wind. It whispers with dust. Every grain here is older than your entire family tree, and it knows more about what happened than any satellite or fossil team. The problem is, it doesn't talk all at once. It releases memories slowly, like peeling bark off a tree you didn't know was alive. You shuffle a little farther into the basin, and now the mammoths fade into background shapes. What dominates the scene now is the land itself. Ridges like the skin of an ancient beast, cracks like stretched scars, a horizon that feels closer than it should be, like it's waiting for something to reappear. But here's the thing. This wasn't always a desert. Historians still debate whether this particular basin was once a seasonal wetland or a grassy steppe hugged by migrating ice sheets. But it was never meant to be this dry. The signs are all around you: fossilized root systems, pollen traces stuck in core samples, even petrified water lilies if you dig deep enough. The mammoths didn't stumble into a dead land. They lived here, they fed here, they taught their young to trumpet here and knock over the thorn trees. This place used to echo with weight. You kneel down and scoop a handful of sand, letting it trickle through your fingers. It's finer than you expect, almost silty and tinged with a faint pink hue. That's not just mineral staining, it's microscopic iron dust, a clue that this area once received regular rainfall strong enough to oxidize stone. You're standing in the footprint of an ancient storm engine. In the distance, something catches the light. You walk toward it slowly, feeling the way the heat folds around your calves like a tired dog. It's not a bone or a tool. It's a fossilized clump of moss, just moss. Still shaped like it once clung to a rock, holding on, as if the freeze had made its death gentle. Here's your odd fact for the hour: some species of moss can survive being dried out for centuries and still regrow when exposed to moisture. They're tiny green time travelers. This one didn't make it, but it's still here, caught in the same geological exhale that froze everything else. You lift it, and underneath is a patch of pale soil completely shielded from sunlight for who knows how long. It smells like rot and minerals and something else, something vaguely sweet like wilted flowers and honey. You pause. The air feels different here. Not cooler, not heavier, just different. You know how dogs can smell earthquakes? That's you, right now. Something ancient in your spine is lighting up, telling you that this patch of land remembers too much. You look up at the sky. No clouds. Not even one. Just that pale, aggressive blue that deserts wear like armor. But if you squint, you can almost see the storm that once roared over this place. Imagine it: ice particles clashing with hot, dry winds, turning the sky into a blender of temperature. A storm so powerful it didn't just kill it, paused. And there's the real mystery. We've seen animals buried in volcanic ash, drowned in floods, frozen in permafrost, but a whole moving herd frozen mid-stride without warning. That's like catching a sneeze and suspending it in amber. You keep walking and the wind shifts again. This time it carries a low rasping sound, like dried grass being combed by fingers. But there's no grass here. Only sandstones and the sleeping mammoths behind you. So you stop and listen. The rasping grows louder and then breaks into whisper. Not speech, not really. Just the kind of murmur you might hear if you fell asleep at a museum and dreamed the bones started remembering. It drifts past your ears and sinks into the back of your neck like cold mist. You say aloud, "I hear you," and everything falls still again. You shake it off. You're a rational creature, right? Well, mostly. But this place doesn't care about your rational brain. This place knows what your bones remember, that survival was always about listening. You press forward and climb a gentle rise in the land. At the top, you see something different. Low, dark ridges in the shape of what could have been a watering hole. Dry now, of course, but there's a particular indentation along one edge where the soil turns black. Charred, maybe, or mineral-drenched. You crouch and touch it, still cool even under the baking sun, and now a picture starts forming. This place was once a lush corridor, a seasonal pass between cold and colder green, and gone. Mammoths didn't just travel here. They returned here. This was ritual. This was memory encoded in footsteps and bark rubs and the scent trails passed down from grandmother to calf. You can almost see them. One of them scraping her tusks along the bark of a frost-burnt tree. Another smaller one, trumpet blowing at her own reflection in a melt puddle. The bull grumbling low, shaking dust from his coat. All of that, gone. Or not gone, paused. That's the word that keeps coming back. The pause didn't erase them. It protected them in a terrifying way. Like the storm wasn't just weather. Like it was judgment. And you're still in its eye. You exhale and realize you haven't blinked in nearly a minute. Your skin is flushed. Your heart is doing a weird two-step. So you sit down cross-legged in the ancient blackened soil and let the world rotate around you. The shadow of one of the mammoths falls just long enough to reach your toes, and for the first time you start to wonder if the storm ever really ended, or if it's just waiting to start again. You wake up standing, not because you meant to, but because your legs moved without asking. Some part of your body older than language heard something, felt something, a shift in the air, a pause behind the pause. And then you see them. The mammoths aren't frozen anymore. Not in this moment, anyway. You're not in the present. You're seeing the moment before it happened. A dusty wind drags itself across the high steppe, tugging at mammoth fur in long, invisible strokes. It's early morning, and the sun is not yet hot enough to sting. The herd moves slowly, steadily, like ships in shallow water. You walk with them now, unseen, the soles of your feet brushing damp grass and half-melted permafrost. The matriarch, a broad-shouldered female with weathered tusks, leads. She has the look of one who has survived more winters than she can count, and who has begun to forget the names of rivers that no longer exist. Behind her, a line of younger mammoths march, calves weaving between adults, occasionally tripping over loose stones or patches of slippery mud. One calf in particular catches your attention. Small ginger-brown fur curled into soft ridges. He walks with a limp, not pain, just stubborn hesitation. Every few paces he stops, ears twitching. His head swings toward the horizon, then to the sky, and once toward the ground. Like something's calling from all directions at once and none of it makes sense. You follow the little one. He wanders to the side of the trail and puts his trunk in the air, testing something no one else seems to notice. The air here is wrong, not hot, not cold, just too still. The kind of stillness you hear in your ears before a panic attack or a power outage. And then the oddest thing, a line of ants perfectly straight moving in the opposite direction of the herd. Hundreds of them, marching fast. Now here's your odd fact of the day. Ants can detect changes in atmospheric pressure and electromagnetic fields before storms hit. Some colonies evacuate above ground hours before weather shifts. This little parade. It's a warning. The calf squeals once, a short noise like a surprised hiccup, and bolts back to the herd. No one notices, not yet. You turn your gaze to the sky. There are no clouds, but something about the light is too sharp. Not golden, not warm, more like silver spears bouncing off every surface. Shadows that don't match their shapes. The landscape looks like it's been washed in raw bleach. You look at the matriarch again. She stops, just for a second. One massive foot-raised trunk curling down and then back up an unfinished gesture like a question she's too tired to ask again. Historians still debate whether mammoths had complex vocal communication like modern elephants. Some suggest low-frequency rumbles imperceptible to human ears could travel miles beneath the earth. If so, you wonder what conversations are happening now. What warnings are being whispered underground? Another adult trumpets. Not alarmed, just annoyed, the ground is changing beneath them. Grass is thinning, patches of exposed clay, a few carcasses of dead trees with no bark left. They keep walking, but the gait has changed looser, less confident, as if their feet are checking for something they've never had to check for. The little calf starts to lag again. You drop beside him unseen and hear the tiny wheezing rhythm of his breath. His eyes are glassy, not with sickness but with knowing, as if he was born too late for innocence and too early for safety. You want to tell him to run, but run where? Behind you, the wind changes. It comes not from one direction, but from everywhere. A chaotic curl of air that twists the fur on the adult mammoth's backs into strange swirls. One cow shakes herself violently and lets out a high-pitched noise that makes the whole herd pause. It's happening. Not fast, not yet, but it has begun. The matriarch swings her tusks wide, sniffing the air, then emits a deep rolling call that makes the calves gather tight. You can feel it in your ribs. It's not a command, it's a lullaby threaded with alarm. The herd forms a half circle. Defensive posture. One or two younger bulls toss their heads, challenging shadows that aren't there. And the calf, you feel him lean against your leg as though he knows something is wrong with the sun. You glance up, and finally you see it. This sky folds, not in half, not like a storm front. It bends like parchment being curled from both sides. The horizon darkens, but not with clouds. It darkens with stillness, like movement itself has been vacuumed out of the air, leaving only pressure behind. You take a breath and it tastes like rust. The mammoths shift uneasily. One starts to step backward, another digs her foot into the earth as if trying to anchor herself. The matriarch turns again, looking not at the sky but at you. You know she can't see you. Not really. But that look, it's like she recognizes something. Not your face, your presence, the presence of a thing that doesn't belong in this moment. And she blinks slowly, her lids dragging across eyes that have seen 100 winters. You want to apologize. The calf squeals again. This time louder, sharper. It echoes in the strange bowed sky and does not come back. Then, without thunder, without warning, a low hum begins. Not in the air, in the ground. You feel it through your toes. A pulse, like a heartbeat that doesn't belong to you. Somewhere in the distance, birds rise in a single sheet and vanish over the ridge, not flapping in panic, just leaving. Leaving before. The matriarch stamps once hard. Dust kicks up. She doesn't run. None of them do. Not yet. They keep walking. Not quickly, not blindly, just walking. You move with the herd now, step by step over terrain that used to promise water. The ground beneath you is hardening, drying in real time. Cracks thread across the topsoil like veins on an aging hand. The mammoths feel it. Their steps become heavier, their trunks lower. There's a rhythm here, an ancestral memory that says, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, even when the trail turns strange. The sky overhead has not returned to normal. It hasn't darkened, hasn't lightened. It's just paused. A too-perfect gradient of yellow and gray like a storm cloud and a sunbeam decided to share custody of the afternoon. You pass a copse of dead trees, or what's left of them, bare trunks like splinters reaching for an absent moon. Their bark has been stripped, likely rubbed clean by passing mammals long ago. But one of them impossibly has a single withered fruit hanging from a twig. Frozen, hardened, like it refused to rot. Odd fact. In extreme low humidity environments, some fruit can mummify instead of decaying. Apricots, apples, even bananas. This one might have been a plum once, or maybe just something no longer in any modern botanical record. The young bulls up front begin to fan out, not in formation, just instinct, spreading risk. They're braver than they are wise. You hear them low rumbling at shadows, at boulders, at a breeze that just shifted cold. And now comes the part where it really gets weird. You see a rock outcrop ahead, and as the herd moves around it, a trail of old mammoth footprints becomes visible, fossilized ones pressed deep into once wet earth that dried and hardened eons ago. Each print is the size of a manhole cover. The current herd steps into them without hesitation, foot and footprint, like reliving memory. You follow toe into hollow. It's a strange sensation walking inside the steps of something long dead beside something still living, like sharing time with two ghosts who don't know they're ghosts yet. The matriarch pauses again. Her ears tilt not in alarm but in memory. She presses her trunk to the ground and exhales. Scientists still debate whether mammoths mourned like modern elephants. There are burial-like arrangements of bones, clusters of tusks, even signs of herds circling a dead calf. But nothing confirms it. Just suggestion. Like all ancient emotions, they're but too soft to fossilize. You step up beside her. The cracked stone beneath your feet feels warmer now. No, not warmer, sharper, like the air has thinned. You glance up. A bird is flying sideways, not drifting on a current, not turning, literally flying sideways across the sky wings at full span. It flaps once, then again, but doesn't gain altitude. The air is wrong. It's folding things. The mammoths press forward. Ahead, the landscape changes again. Hills smooth into shallow ridges. The dirt becomes packed clay. The grass has all but vanished. You realize this place isn't dying. It's preparing for something. A transformation, the kind that takes a single hour and then locks it in for 10,000 years. You pass a stone. It's been carved not by humans, not intentionally, but by friction. 1,000 mammoth hides brushing past it year after year, softening its sharp edges. It leans to one side like it's bowing to the herd, or maybe begging them to stop. They don't, and neither do you. There's a sound now, subtle, almost like paper tearing under your feet. You crouch down and touch the ground. It's cracking, not from heat, from pressure. Something under the soil is shifting. Another bull trumpets. His feet stamp, head tossing. He's not posturing anymore. He's frightened. His breath steams even in this dry air, like his body knows the cold before it arrives. You start to feel it too, an ache in your knuckles. Not fear, temperature, a drop. Rapid. Like a fridge door just opened across the land. The matriarch growls low. Not a trumpet, not a call, a growl. Her eyes are locked on the ridgeline ahead, where shadows move the wrong way sideways against the wind. You look, and you finally see the storm. It's not rolling toward you. It's already here, folding space inward from the edges, turning time soft around its center. You can't tell if it's made of snow or dust or something altogether stranger. The color is impossible, part gray, part violet, with streaks of light that flash silently. A calf squeals behind you. The herd slows. You can feel their decision happening. It passes like a wave across their bodies. Shoulders tense, trunks curl, eyes narrow. Do we run? Do we circle? Do we wait? This is what's called herd law. Every mammoth learns it young. You don't break formation. You don't panic unless the matriarch panics. You stay together because one is easier to kill than 10. But this isn't a predator. This is weather with fangs. The herd begins to turn slightly, adjusting their course. Not a full retreat, just a drift. Like they're steering away from a smell or a vibration or an echo only they can hear. You step aside as they pass, and the young bull at the rear gives you a glance, a momentary flicker of recognition. Like he's seen you before. Or maybe will again. You want to tell him to keep going, but he already knows. A gust of air slices through the basin. Not wind vacuum. It pulls toward the heart of the storm and every mammoth turns their head. And for a moment, just one, they all pause. In unison. One last breath before the choice. You can feel it before you see it. The wind doesn't push, it grabs. It curls around your limbs like it's trying to weigh you. It loops into the folds of your clothes and tugs downward. And the mammoths. Their fur flattens, then lifts, then twists in slow-motion arcs like seaweed in reverse. This is no ordinary weather. This is fabric being torn between eras. And now you notice the wool. Up close, mammoth wool isn't just long hair. It's a system. Coarse guard hairs up to 3 feet long, thick underfur in dense waves beneath. And a skin so packed with fat layers it's practically memory foam. Scientists will one day run analyses on preserved strands and find keratin structures more complex than any modern ungulate. Some say the undercoat rivaled that of the muskox in insulation, but even insulation has limits, especially against this. You step close to a young female. She's stocky, powerful, not quite full-grown. Her fur catches the new air and you can see how the wind's pulling moisture straight from her. Not melting, extracting. Vapor weeping invisibly from every strand. The cold is coming not as a wall, but as an absence. One of the younger bulls lifts his trunk and lets out a frustrated blurt. He doesn't understand why the cold is arriving from above, below, and inside. He kicks at the ground, scoops a chunk of cracked mud and flings it sideways. It hits a nearby boulder and shatters like glass. You blink. Yes, like glass. Historians still debate whether this particular storm was accompanied by volcanic activity from a nearby fault system. The timing fits. There's evidence of distant ash falls and sediment cores, and traces of airborne sulfur compounds trapped in deep glacial ice. Volcanic winter with Arctic wind. Not impossible, but here's the part no one wants to say: the mammoths weren't caught by surprise. They felt it. Days before, maybe weeks, the air was too dry, the sun too pale. The calves started refusing water from safe sources. Something told them the laws were changing. You place a hand on the wool of the matriarch again. Her flank is vibrating, not from fear, from trying to adapt. Her body is attempting to regulate heat, redirect blood, insulate her most vital parts, and it's failing. You imagine the cells under her skin screaming into darkness. What is this? What is this? What is this? You remember that odd fact we mentioned? Musk ox wool can trap air so effectively that their undercoat, called caveat, is 8 times warmer than sheep's wool and can float on water if shed. Mammoth wool likely had a similar property, but none of that matters now, because the storm doesn't care what you evolve to endure. It bends forward suddenly as if bowing. Then it lifts. A new gust lashes the herd sideways, somehow upward. The mammoths stagger. A few of the calves let out high, bird-like trills, sounds too soft for their size. Their mothers crowd them, tusks forming a loose barricade. You're not sure why you're still standing. Every molecule in your body wants to crouch, or lie flat, or dig 6 feet down and wait for the epic to change. Another shift in pressure hits and the sky folds again. Not in sight, in sound. You can't hear your own breath anymore, not because it's loud, but because it's quiet. Like someone pushed mute on the atmosphere. You hear your pulse in your gums, the wind in your ear bones, but nothing external. No birds, no mammoths, no dust, and then movement. Not from the herd, from above. Something white begins to fall. You assume at first it's snow, but it's too angular, too fast. You catch one on your tongue because of course you do, you idiot, and immediately regret it. It's ash. Microscopic, sharp, melted and refrozen, mid-air volcanic glass riding a thermal vortex. And then, like nature deciding it's done playing, subtle, actual snow joins it. But not flakes. Shards. Tiny slivers of ice sharp enough to slice a blade of grass lengthwise. One lands on your cheek and draws a single narrow line of red. You wipe it away instinctively, but the blood doesn't warm you. If anything, it cools faster than it should. The mammoths react now. The matriarch lets out a deep, groaning trumpet and the herd begins to shift, not running but forming a tight oval. The calves pushed inward. The bulls to the edges, heads down, trunks curled. It's the posture of resistance, the posture of knowing it won't work but trying anyway. The young bull you've been watching, limping slightly from an old injury, stands just beyond the main circle. He doesn't join them. He watches the sky instead. You can feel his decision before it happens. He takes a step forward, then another, then three more. He walks directly into the storm's open mouth, head held high, as if daring it to show him something new. And then he stops, mid-step. His foot doesn't come down. You take one breath, and you see it. A shimmer passes over him like heat above a highway. But it's cold. So cold. It burns blue. His fur locks in place. His trunk curls in just slightly. His eye does not close. He's paused. Not dead. Not yet. The herd watches. And then it happens again. A mother turning to shield her calf pauses, knee half bent. A calf trying to suckle pauses, tongue extended. The matriarch, head tilted, eyes blinking, almost moves again. And doesn't. You walk among them as they stop one by one. You feel their heat bleeding into air that doesn't hold it. You whisper to yourself, keep moving, but your own joints stiffen. Not from cold, from awe and fear, and the knowledge that wool cannot stop the sky. You look up. It's not a sky anymore. It's a lid. Not clouds, not stars, not atmosphere, just pressure shaped like a dome collapsing quietly over the steppe. There's a curl at its edge where the horizon should be. Like the world is being folded closed, one quiet breath at a time. And the wind, it's coming from everywhere. Not toward the storm, not away from it. Just circulating, around you, through you, over the backs of the mammoths, like fingers combing a child's hair. You hold your arms out and feel it twist. One direction around your left wrist, the opposite around your right. Like two winds disagreeing on your fate. You glance at the herd. What's left of it? Half of them have stopped. Mid-breath, mid-blink, not fallen, not frozen to the ground, held, like the air turned to syrup and said, no more forward. Scientists still debate whether a phenomenon called a supercooled flash front could explain it, a sudden massive downburst of near cryogenic air collapsing from the stratosphere due to extreme atmospheric instability. It's the kind of thing that might happen once every million years. But then again, so is you. You start to walk again, even though your knees feel like glass bottles full of sand. You pass the young bull still mid-step. A flake of ash has settled on his tusk. It does not melt. You reach up and brush it away. The ash crumbles like powdered sugar. And now your finger tingles. Cold and electrical. You say his name though you don't know it. Nothing answers. The wind picks up behind you again. But this time it whistles. Not through rocks, not through bone, through fur. You turn and see it. The matriarch has paused too. You hadn't noticed when. She stands with one foot planted, one lifted. Trunk mid-gesture, like she was about to correct a child. Her fur catches the new wind and lifts slightly, revealing the pattern underneath. The skin is covered in ridged spirals, not natural ones, not muscle pattern, scars, ritualistic genetic. You don't know, but they form circles. Circles inside circles, like tree rings, like maps, like warnings. You step closer and the air thickens. It smells like burnt sugar and pine resin. A storm should smell like salt or dust or rain. This smells like an ending. Here's your odd fact. Lightning can fold sideways under the right conditions. Called crawlers or creeping discharges, they stretch across the sky like broken spider legs, sometimes never touching the ground. You look up now and see them, faint blue-white fingers dragging across the darkened ceiling, as if something up there is trying to find the earth again. The storm has no direction. It's not east. It's not north. It's just down, from every angle, like a collapsing lung, and still the silence. No thunder, no roar, just wind scraping itself across dry time. You reach one of the younger mammoths frozen mid-call. Mouth open, eyes squinted as if the air hit her face faster than sound. You press your ear to her side. No heartbeat, but there's a hum. A low vibration through the wool, the fat, the bone. You press harder. It's not coming from her. It's coming from the ground beneath her. You lie flat. Now you hear it fully. A distant subterranean murmur like air caught in a cave mouth. A deep exhale that never ends. It pulses. Once. Then again. Then again. Not rhythmically, not mechanically. More like breathing with broken ribs. The storm is not just weather. It's alive in a way you'll never quite explain. You rise slowly, brushing frost from your shirt. You see now that the sky isn't darkening. It's shrinking. Every shadow grows longer, but there's no sun to cast them. You hold your hand out and your own shadow stretches toward the mammoths, then toward the ridge, then folds backward under your feet. The storm has stopped following logic. One calf nearest to you hasn't paused yet. He stumbles, shakes, then plants his feet. He looks at you again, that impossible thing that glanced through time and then squeals. Not in fear, in defiance. You kneel beside him. He presses his trunk to your hand. And for one moment you feel it. Not the cold, not the wind. The memory. His mother, his birth. The stream they crossed when he was 3 weeks old. The salty taste of glacial runoff. The warmth of sleeping under her belly during a snow squall. His father's voice once from a far ridge. The way the herd sings low when the moon is too large. You feel it all. And then he freezes. Mouth still open, trunk still touching you. Gone. No sound, no gasp, just pause. The storm doesn't scream, it doesn't slam, it doesn't shake. It removes. It folds the present out of itself and replaces it with stillness. You stand surrounded by statues of life that never finished living. You hold your breath. And for the first time since the freeze began, you're the only thing that moves. You are not supposed to be here anymore. You feel that now fully. Like you've walked past the edge of a film reel and are standing in the blank space between frames. The world is still shaped like itself, but it no longer breathes. You move carefully, each step a whisper across frostbitten clay. The air crackles faintly beneath your heels, not from cold alone, but from tension. A pressure you'd usually find deep in caves or high in the stratosphere is now just here, at eye level. Lurking between the ribs of frozen mammoths, the matriarch is the last to stop. Of course she is. She's the oldest, the strongest, the most stubborn. Her eyes are half closed, not frozen shut, just resting. Her trunk has lifted partway and then forgotten what it meant to reach for. You walk in front of her and stand still. And then something terrifying happens. She blinks, once, slow. The eyelid slides down like a curtain, then back up. And she looks at you like she's trying to remember if you were part of her dream. Then the motion stops again. The blink never repeats. That was the last living moment of this herd. You heard it. You saw it. Historians still debate whether this moment can be timed to a specific minute. Some ice core readings suggest a sudden drop of 10 degrees Celsius in under an hour, while other models insist such a freeze should have been preceded by environmental warnings for days. But none of them account for the matriarch's blink. That wasn't science. That was story. You sit down beneath her. You're not cold anymore. The world is colder than you are, but it's not touching you. It's ignoring you. Like even the physics of temperature have forgotten you're involved. Above the sky finally decides to flicker. Not with light, with color. An aurora begins to ripple faintly across the dome, green first, then violet. It shouldn't be possible this far south, but this isn't a place anymore. This is a threshold. You watch the lights twist silently, and for a moment you remember something odd. In a Siberian myth, told by the Evenki people, auroras were thought to be the souls of the dead dancing in the sky with giant antlers, on their heads humming old songs. And now, sitting beneath a woolly matriarch with eyes like cracked amber, you start to wonder if this is her final dream made visible. There's a faint sound behind you. Not a voice. Not even a noise. Just a flutter, like a page turning inside the ice. You stand and walk toward it. It's coming from the edge of the herd near the youngest calves. You find one tiny and folded legs tucked under like it meant to nap. In its trunk is something bizarre, a stick. No, not a stick, a tool. Maybe. A slender rod of wood blackened at one end. Burnt. Charcoal. Did it pick it up by accident, or was it given? You crouch down and gently remove it from the calf's trunk. The fur beneath your fingertips is brittle now. Still thick, still coiled, but starting to accept the stillness. You press the burnt end of the stick into the ground and draw a circle. Just one. The earth accepts it like it's been waiting. You glance over your shoulder. The matriarch stands still. Her trunk raised, her foot suspended forever. And now you understand this isn't fear, this isn't confusion. This is her remembering something older than instinct. She's seen this before. Or something like it. Remember when we said mammoths couldn't plan that they moved on scent and season and the slow tilt of ice? Maybe that was wrong. Maybe they recognized patterns we haven't even named yet. The matriarch doesn't blink again. But her stillness now feels chosen, like she stood up to face the cold, not hide from it. Like she knew there would be a story buried in her shadow. You look to the horizon. The storm center has passed now. Not away, just through. There's no debris, no collapse, only the echo of motion, the kind that leaves bodies standing and history folded behind glass. You turn in a slow circle. Everything is the same, and everything has changed. It starts with a sound you can't quite place. Not a roar, not a howl. Just a long, low crack like a glacier sighing through its teeth. You turn slowly. The mammoths do not move, but they heard it too. You can tell by the way their trunks are frozen in just slightly new angles, as if the moment they froze wasn't the same second. It staggered across the herd like a ripple, each one caught in a slightly different breath, a different doubt. The crack comes again, closer. You instinctively drop to the ground, hands pressed flat into the earth. And that's when you feel it not shaking exactly. More like humming. A vibration in the clay, rhythmic, pulsing upward through your bones. It doesn't travel horizontally like an earthquake. It doesn't build like thunder. It arrives like a decision. You crouch beside a fallen ridge, scanning the horizon. There's nothing there. But you hear the sound a third time, and this one splits. It's like a note being sung by two mouths at once, one low, one sharp. A disharmony that doesn't echo. It just sticks. The mammoth nearest you, a young adult bull, is caught mid-step, trunk angled outward, as if trying to reach for something. His mouth is slightly open. You peer closer and realize he's not breathing, but his tongue is stretched toward his lower tusk. That is the moment he was taken. And yet, he looks like he's listening. You step around to the front of him trying to understand. And that's when it hits you. It wasn't the cold alone. It wasn't the storm. It was the sound. Historians still debate whether infrasound low-frequency vibrations below human hearing played a role in ancient herd panic. Elephants use it today, sending rumbles miles through the ground. But if something interfered with that, if the storm came with a sound that scrambled the mammoth's senses, it could explain the hesitation. The way they stopped without collapsing. The way they looked upward, not inward. A wave that froze choice. And now you hear it again. This time it feels like it's coming from inside your chest. A gentle pressure building behind your sternum. Not pain, more like a cough that doesn't arrive. It's coming from everywhere and nowhere. You try to speak, but your voice doesn't leave. The storm didn't mute the air. It muted you. You reach out desperate to feel something warm, and your hand grazes the back of another calf. This one is barely larger than a pony fur clumped into tight rings of frost. Its ears are pulled tight to its head, not in fear, but concentration. A perfect moment of hesitation, and now the vibration increases. Not violently, cleanly, like glass deciding it doesn't want to be solid anymore. You cover your ears. It does nothing. The sound isn't heard. It's felt. And then you see the final moment happen. It isn't dramatic. It isn't even noisy. It's one young bull, a straggler slower than the others, taking a single step forward, then stopping. His foot doesn't land. His muscles don't lock. He just doesn't finish. And now the sound disappears. Completely. The entire world exhales in reverse. You stagger backward. You can hear your own breath again. That's how you know the sound is truly gone. You look around. The mammoths are done moving. Even the last ones. The storm is still above you, shifting light like oil on a pan. The silence now feels less like a hush and more like a weight. It presses down. It holds everything in place. Odd fact. In 2015, a meteor exploded above the Arctic with no warning, releasing the energy of a nuclear bomb, and barely anyone noticed. It passed through silent layers of atmosphere, sound delayed by altitude and air pressure, until all anyone heard was a late thump and distant window rattle. What you just heard didn't come from above. It came from beneath. And now the herd is perfectly still. The matriarch's foot is lifted. One eye remains partially open. Her trunk extends halfway in a gesture she likely gave hundreds of times before "follow me." But now, it points at nothing. The calves are in formation, circled tight. A mother presses her flank to a smaller bull. One trunk curls around another's tusk like a goodbye it didn't know was happening. They were trying to decide, and the sound made the decision for them. You walk among them now. Your footsteps too loud, your body too warm. You try to whisper, but it feels profane. The silence around you has grown sacred. You pass a frozen mammoth mid-stumble, one front knee beginning to bend. Her mouth is slightly parted. If she had one more second, maybe she would have turned and run. Or maybe not. Because the storm wasn't chasing. It waited, and then it called. And now everything that answered is gone. You don't know how cold it is until your teeth begin to ring, not chatter. Ring. A high stinging buzz behind your molars, like tiny tuning forks vibrating under your enamel. You exhale through your nose and see not breath but crystals. The air is no longer vapor, it's texture. Dust, frost, and ash spinning together in delicate chaos, drawn by a storm that's no longer wind or weather, but a presence. You kneel beside a fallen ridge, and that's when you notice the color. Not white, not just gray. The frost coating the mammoths has begun to shimmer, faintly flecks of charcoal trapped in the ice, catching light in strange pink glints. You pinch a bit between your fingers. It breaks like sugar under a spoon, but it's not snow. It's volcanic dust. Microscopic glass, sharp and ancient. The kind that only forms when something explodes with such violence that the sky forgets what season it is. Historians still debate whether a supervolcano eruption thousands of miles away, perhaps in what is now Indonesia or North America, could have launched debris high enough into the upper atmosphere to ride the jet stream here to this ancient steppe. There's growing evidence of a thin stratum of tephra volcanic ash beneath the oldest ice layers in this region. Some call it coincidence. Some call it a global die-off disguised as a regional freeze. But you're starting to think this storm wasn't just cold. It was loaded. Ashes in the snow, memories in the melt. You rub your hands together, but there's nothing left in your fingertips. No friction, no warmth, just numbness. The kind that doesn't warn you, it just takes. First your nails, then your joints, then your sense of time. You walk again. The mammoths are quiet now. Even the ones who seemed to move moments ago have accepted their final pose. One calf is frozen mid-rear front feet off the ground, as if leaping toward its mother who never looked back. You stare at it for a long time, unsure whether to grieve or admire its bravery. Then you see the strange thing. Not a mammoth, a tree. A single frost-blasted tree standing in the middle of the basin. It should be long dead. It is dead, but its trunk is blackened, as if it was burned after the freeze. You touch it, it flakes. Beneath the char is a ring of reddish sap, thick and preserved like the tree tried to bleed but froze in mid-pulse. And at its base, snow. Actual snow. Not ash, not dust, real snow. But it's glittering. You crouch and run your fingers through it. It's heavier than it should be, and you see it now, tiny crystals of feldspar quartz and obsidian. Volcanic. The snow is laced with pulverized rock, Odd fact, under specific conditions, volcanic ash in the atmosphere can act as nuclei for snowflake formation. That means ash can build snow. It doesn't just fall with it, it is the skeleton around which cold takes shape. You sit beside the tree back against its ruined bark. Your ears are ringing louder now. Not sound, just pressure. As if the atmosphere still hasn't found its balance since the storm folded down. From your perch, you can see how the snow has gathered, drifting around the mammoths in delicate curls. Not like windblown dunes, like intentional wraps. Each mammoth lies within a soft hollow of white, like a shroud pulled up to the chin of someone sleeping. But this was no burial. No one covered them. The storm did. And now it's sealing them. You rise, legs stiff, and step toward the matriarch one last time. Snow swirls gently around her trunk. Her eyes are still half-lidded forever in that nearly finished blink. Her fur crackles with frost, but there's a line down her back where the ice is thinner. You reach out and lace your palm flat there, and under all the cold, under all the ash and ancient memory, you feel warmth. Faint, but real. The kind of warmth that doesn't belong anymore. That lingered too long. That tried to outlast time, and maybe did. You close your eyes. The world hums faintly, a resonance you no longer hear with your ears. When you open them again, it's darker. Not nightfall, just dimming. The kind of dim that says the storm is finished not because it has passed, but because its work is done. You turn slowly, watching the last flakes fall. The basin is a graveyard now, but not in any mournful way. More like a museum no one is allowed to open yet. Each mammoth remains exactly as they were. Not collapsed, not crumpled, just paused. Still, permanent. Waiting for some future where someone like you stumbles in and thinks they're dreaming. You whisper, "I see you." And for just 1 second, so quick, you can't be sure you think the snow at your feet moves in the shape of an eye. Then it's gone. Stillness doesn't sound like silence. It presses. It accumulates. You step carefully now, less because of the cold, more because of what you might disturb. The ground is coated in a sheet of fine snow and ash that crunches like eggshells underfoot. You cringe with each step. Every sound you make is a reminder that you still belong to time, and these creatures do not. The mammoths are coated now. Every curve of muscle, every curl of fur outlined in frost and slow-falling dust. Snow drapes their shoulders like old regal cloaks, ice beads on their eyelashes. One mother's ear is held half forward in the eternal posture of listening. You're not sure if she ever heard what she was listening for, and that's what settles in now. The texture of this storm isn't random. It's not chaos. It's precision, like the weather had fingers. Like it chose its moments, crept between them, and turned them solid. Not fast, deliberate. You find yourself whispering for no one's benefit. "I shouldn't be here." And the wind answers, not with words, not with sound, with absence. You walk to the edge of a small hollow where 3 mammoths have gathered around a central figure, a fallen calf. Not frozen in mid-movement, just curled on its side mouth, slightly open legs tucked. The others surround it in a ring, heads, low shoulders braced. They never meant to move again. Historians still debate whether such arrangements are coincidence or intention, whether this is mourning or just convenience. But seeing it now, you don't care what science says. They stopped for him. This is a moment that never wanted to end. You kneel beside this calf. Snow has pooled in the folds of his neck, in the crook of his back leg, in the gentle basin beneath his shoulder. You brush some of it away and see something astonishing. A berry twig, still clutched in his trunk. 3 tiny red fruits, shriveled but visible, cling to the branch. No bite marks, no teeth, just carried, as if he meant to bring them to someone. You take it gently. The stem is frozen through, but the berries still hold color. Blood red like winter offerings. It smells faintly of iron and rot and sweetness and memory. You hold it to your chest like an apology. Odd fact, some prehistoric berries contain natural antifreeze compounds. Even today, Arctic plants like crowberries can remain viable through multiple freeze-thaw cycles. Maybe this one was tough enough to survive the storm, too. You pocket it, carefully. The stillness here has reached its crescendo. Nothing moves? Not even the storm. It's gone now, you think. Or maybe it's simply finished. Like a net pulled snug, cinched shut, and now resting over this place forever. You remember the way the matriarch blinked. She knew. Some part of her ancient, unwritten memory recognized this, whether from a story passed through low-frequency rumbles or a scar remembered from another age. Her herd didn't panic. They stood still. Not because they failed to act, because they chose to stop. You rise and look around. Every mammoth is locked in that same unspoken decision. Legs braced, eyes half-lidded, as if trying to convince the storm that they weren't prey, that they were monuments, that they belonged. And maybe it worked. Because what's around you isn't death, it's preservation. This isn't a battlefield. It's a time capsule. The cold became a sculptor. The storm became a curator. The snow is the gallery wall. And you are the only thing walking through the exhibit. The only noise. You exhale again, slowly. This time your breath doesn't fog. It just disappears. Even the air knows you're not supposed to linger. You move on. Each step leaves a print too crisp, too temporary. You begin to wonder if your own tracks will remain here. Will you be another fossil someday crouched beside a berry twig, staring into the eye of a matriarch who almost finished blinking? You hope not. But the stillness, it wants things. You glance down and realize your boots, dusty, before are now perfectly clean, like the snow has stripped every foreign element from you. The static in the air clings to your hair, your clothes, your skin, and now even your shadow is quiet. You look back at the herd. The matriarch still stands tallest, 1 foot slightly raised. You swear just for a second you see a flicker of movement in her flank. A pulse, a breath, but no. It's only the wind brushing across her fur and failing to disturb it. The stillness is perfect now. No more flakes fall, no more whispers rise. This is the final pose. And beneath the snow, time is sealed like a letter no one ever mailed. It begins to vanish. Not the mammoths, not yet, but the storm. The thing that brought all of this, the cold, the pressure, the sideways wind, the breathless sound, it's fading. But not like a storm passing, like a show ending, like a curtain slowly falling over a stage. The sky clears, but not to blue. It just turns blank. A pale, featureless smear, the kind of sky that doesn't bother to reflect anything anymore. No sun. No stars, just white. You walk slowly now, no need to rush. There's nowhere to go that isn't after this. The snow underfoot is firmer. Less powder, more crust. When you step, it breaks with a clean, crisp snap. Like a sheet of sugar. It covers everything flesh-stone footprints. It seals. And that's when you realize what it's doing. It's burying them. Not deeply. Not with shovels or force. Just settling. Sifting over each mammoth like a second skin. You crouch beside the matriarch. Her fur is already half-coated. The tips of her tusks glint faintly, then dull again as dust settles. She's going under. The herd is being erased in real time. No scavengers will come. No weather will disturb them. No insects buzz. No birds circle. The air is too still to carry even a whisper. Historians still debate whether sandstorms or flash snowstorms account for the rapid preservation of Ice Age fauna. But what they miss what you're watching right now is that this storm didn't destroy the mammoths. It paused them. And now the sand finishes what the ice began. You walk toward the edge of the basin where the terrain rises just slightly. There along a ridge, the snow thins, and the wind begins to pull gently across the surface. Dust trails stream behind rocks like smoke, and then antlers. No, not antlers, tusks. Dozens of them. Maybe more. Rising like fence posts from the snow, smooth and pale. Ivory still intact. You walk between them and the pattern is unmistakable. These aren't random. This is a line. The sand didn't just bury the mammoths. It marked them. You touch one tusk. It's warm from sunlight. Not warm like life, warm like memory. The wind shifts again just a bit stronger this time and sweeps a layer of fine ash away from the base. There you see a sliver of fur, still curled, still brown. The rest of the body is hidden, but the tip of one frozen eyelid peeks out from beneath the crust. You realize now that the desert didn't form later. It began here, right here, where snow turned to ash and ash turned to silt and silt turned to sand. This basin didn't just become a desert. It built itself over the stillness, one grain at a time. Odd fact, under the right wind patterns, sand can build up around solid objects until only the tallest parts like tusks or horns remain visible. Some archaeologists have mistaken them for standing stones, not geese, realizing they're the last visible breath of creatures buried just feet below. You wander the line of tusks, each one different. One is cracked near the base, weathered with tiny grooves like water once ran down it. Another is chipped, maybe broken in life. Another is smooth as glass, polished by centuries of wind. You step carefully between them. The mammoths are still here, all of them, just beneath. The sand shifts under your weight, and for a moment your foot sinks deeper than expected. Your heart jumps, but it's just a pocket, empty, or maybe once full. You pull your leg free and back away. You're not the first to step here, and you probably won't be the last. The wind picks up again, a gentle sighing motion, and you turn back toward the heart of the basin. Already, most of the mammoths are no longer visible. The snow is smooth, pristine. A white plain with only a few ripples like a blanket pulled over restless sleepers. You squint into the distance. One final tusk taller than the rest stands like a monument. You don't remember seeing it before, and that's the part that catches you. Because maybe the desert adds things too. Maybe memory isn't just what you dig up. Maybe it's what the sand offers back, one piece at a time. You exhale and watch your breath vanish again. This time the wind doesn't even pretend to carry it. It folds your exhale into the stillness and seals it. You wake to movement, not your own. Not from the mammoths. There's still stone still caught in that long inhale that never finished. No, this is different. You feel it beneath your palms. The shifting. The ground itself is unsettled not with force but with purpose, like a cat turning slowly in its sleep beneath a blanket. You press your ear to the snow-crusted clay and hear something faint tapping. Not seismic, not mechanical, rhythmic. Digging, but not from below, from above. You rise slowly, half fearing the spell of the freeze is breaking. That maybe the mammoths will start walking again, groaning, shedding ice like winter coats, but no. They remain still. But the sand is listening. A sound slices through the air. A sharp metal clink. Then voices. Human, distant, not calling, just talking casually. You know that tone, fieldwork, brushes, buckets, photographs. You crest the ridge of the basin, and there they are. 3 modern humans. 2 crouched, one standing with a camera. They wear wide hats, dust-covered pants, canvas belts, heavy with tools. One sips from a thermos. The other leans on a shovel and laughs at something you can't hear. And in front of them, a mammoth calf. Not fossilized, not imagined. Curled in the dirt, perfectly preserved. Eyelids shut, ears folded, a slight crease in the trunk where it must have gripped something once. You watch as one of the scientists gently brushes debris from its leg. The skin is intact, leathery, wrinkled, still dusky brown under the crust. You want to shout, "Be careful, he was just sleeping," but the words die in your throat. You walk closer. The scene doesn't change. They don't see you. Of course they don't. This isn't your time anymore. The researchers kneel beside a small bundle at the mammoth's side. And there it is, the berry twig. The same one. Identical. Still curled in the frozen grasp of a tiny trunk. Your hand goes to your pocket. Empty. Of course it is. Odd fact, in 2007, a team of Siberian scientists uncovered a permafrost-preserved baby mammoth with traces of gut content still intact, pollen grass, even berries. Some of those plants no longer exist. You lean forward, drawn by curiosity or something older, and then you see it. Another figure in the snow. Not mammoth, human, half buried, curled on its side. You walk over, breath caught somewhere between hope and horror. It's not you, but it could be. The body is ancient, that much is clear. Skin like dried leather, limbs compacted from time and pressure. Clothes, animal hides, rudimentary stitches, small tools at the waist. And in the hand, a smooth obsidian flake. Ritual object, or blade, or just something to hold. The scientists haven't uncovered this part yet, but they will. You kneel beside the figure and look at the face, shrunken lips drawn back. But the jaw is strong, the eye sockets wide, the cheekbone chipped maybe from falling forward into snow that should have caught him. Historians still debate whether early humans ever followed mammoth herds into extinction, whether we hunted them to the edge or merely watched from a distance as the world turned on both of us. What's less debated, the burial sites. They sometimes mix human and mammoth remains in oddly intimate patterns. This person didn't stumble into the storm. He chose to stay with them, just like you. The wind picks up, soft, brushing across your arms. And now the sky has changed again. It's clearer, but not brighter, just less angry. The researchers rise, tag their finds, take notes. One of them laughs light like water in a stream. Another lifts the calf's front leg, gently revealing a strip of unthawed fur. You watch them work, and then one of them stops, stares at something in the snow. A track. Not mammoth, human. One bare footprint in the frost-dusted clay. Yours, maybe. The scientist tilts their head, puzzled, then shrugs and moves on. You smile, a small, tired smile. The sand always returns the story in its own way. Not as proof, as invitation. You turn back to the basin. The herd is still sealed, but the wind is playing again. The tops of the tusks gleam faintly in the returning sun. Each is a time beacon, a monument. You step forward and sink a little, just a few inches, but enough. The snow collapses gently around your shin. You pull back. The hole you leave behind fills instantly. And just like that, you vanish. Not all at once, but slowly, like a story being retold through layers of sand. Heat returns like a stranger, not gradually, not politely, it just appears. One moment the ground is quiet, cold, muffled by snow and silence, and the next a drop of meltwater falls from a tusk and hits the earth with a hiss. The first hiss in 10,000 years. You stand on higher ground now. It's centuries later. The sky is cracked open with blue, the kind of blue that doesn't care what came before it, the kind that scrubs history out of the atmosphere like it never happened. Below the basin is waking up, but not all at once, just here and there. A patch of snow darkens, a ridge of ivory glistens, a puddle spreads beneath one frozen flank. You watch as the mammoth fur begins to collapse in slow motion. Not disintegrate, relax, as if the stillness is exhaling. You climb down. The air smells of thaw. Wet dirt, a little sulfur, a lot of memory. And there at the edge of a shallow melt pool you see it. A rib, still arched, still holding the shape of the animal it once protected. And around it, tiny plants you've never seen before. Glossy, waxy blue-green. One has bloomed. A pale yellow flower, soft and stubborn. You touch it, it bends without breaking. Odd fact, certain seeds can survive millennia in permafrost. In 2012, Russian scientists germinated a flowering plant from 32,000-year-old seeds found in an ancient squirrel burrow. It bloomed just fine. You step further into the thawing field, and then the horror starts. It's not the mammoths, it's what comes next. Water. Real rushing water. Rain somewhere uphill has finally found its way down. A monsoon burst. Sudden, loud, unapologetic. You hear the roar before you feel the splash. Then it hits a wave of muddy runoff, ankle-deep, surging fast. The thawing snow turns to slurry. The ash becomes muck. And now the mammoths, beautiful, preserved, poetic, are beginning to dissolve. You kneel beside the matriarch. Her fur slips like wet paper from her shoulder. You want to stop it. You can't. The water eats everything. Not in anger, in function. The storm that preserved them is gone, and the world impatient returns to erosion. You watch a tusk float free. Another slides under the surface. You shout without shouting, scream without air. But the past has no panic reflex. Historians still debate whether post-glacial melt events destroyed more than they revealed. For every perfectly preserved body there are dozens more that rotted unnoticed in bogs, rivers, and unphotographed valleys. Some bones never fossilize. Some stories never harden. You crouch beside a calf, the same calf you think that once clutched the berry twig. It's limp now. One eye clouded the socket beginning to loosen. You reach to close the lid, but it falls apart beneath your fingers. The scientists will come back. They'll find scattered remains half recorded. Maybe some DNA, a tooth or two. They'll reconstruct the wrong shape, the wrong story. They won't know what you saw. They won't know that once everything stopped, and now everything is running again. You step back soaked to your knees. The ground trembles not with storm, but with time catching up. The wind has returned. Not magical, not folded, just wind. Dry, warm, familiar. You almost hate it. You leave the basin. Behind you, the storm's masterpiece vanishes. One mammoth sinks into mud. Another slides sideways with a groan of wet earth. The footprints melt. The snow line withdraws like a frightened tide. But the flower remains. That one yellow bloom defiantly upright beside a broken rib. It doesn't care about ice or ash or silence. It's just growing. The maps were wrong. That's the first thing you realize when you return much, much later lifetimes from when you last walked among the still herd. There's no marker here, no monument, just the endless ripple of desert dunes where once a storm turned time to ice. You kneel in the sand and brush away the top layer. Beneath it, more sand. Beneath that, maybe bones, or footprints, or nothing. You've brought someone with you this time. A friend, a translator, a believer. She stands behind you, notebook in hand, sketching the shapes of nearby ridges. Her pen dances. She hasn't said a word since you arrived. Some things don't need narration. You rise and point toward the far curve of the valley. There, you say. That's where the matriarch stood. She nods, doesn't question you. Instead, she opens a map. But not a modern one. Not paper, not digital. Stone. It's a rubbing she took from Petroglyphs 2 valleys over. Scratched spirals, antlered beasts, jagged marks like lightning. One symbol repeats again and again, a circle within a circle, always with a single slash through its center. You see it now, etched into stone, carved into memory. The storm. This wasn't just weather. It was myth. Odd fact in some Saharan petroglyphs. Ancient humans depicted elephants with exaggerated ears and curved tusks, possibly inspired by mammoth memory passed down for thousands of years by oral tradition long after the animals vanished. You scan the rocks nearby and find no such carvings. But the ground. That's where the stories are now. You begin to dig, not deep, just a few inches. Your fingers graze something smooth, polished, curved. You uncover the edge of a tusk. Still buried? Still waiting? She kneels beside you and whispers, "So it's true." You nod. But that's not the strange part. The strange part is what she pulls from her pocket, a small stone disc, etched with the same spiral. She says, "My grandmother gave me this. Said it belonged to a place where the sky once turned solid." You smile. Did she tell you where? She said I'd know when I was standing on it. And she does. You both do. You walk together to the center of the old basin, guided not by maps but by rhythm of the wind, the dunes, the feeling in your knees that remembers deep cold even when your skin does not. And then you stop. Not for trauma, not for discovery. You just feel it. A moment, a breath, a shadow underfoot that doesn't match your body. She points to the ground. There, between your footprints, a small ring of stones, deliberately placed. You kneel, heart thudding. Inside the ring, a tooth, small, worn, human, fossilized. You don't know who left it here. Or why. Maybe it fell. Maybe it was planted. Maybe this was always meant to be found. Historians still debate whether stories are stronger than fossils. Whether a myth passed from one pair of lips to another across time can preserve truth better than bones. But standing here, the storm became a story. The story became a map. And the map led you back to where silence once stood like a god over the world, demanding stillness, and was answered by wool and bravery in one last blink. You look to the horizon, no clouds. But maybe far off something moves. You return one last time, not as a visitor, as a witness. You arrive alone just before dusk when the wind forgets its name and the sand turns gold in the low light. There's no sound but your breath, and even that feels borrowed. The basin lies ahead, half swallowed by shifting dunes, the rim, a gentle ripple like an exhale from the earth itself. You take off your shoes. Barefoot, you step down into memory. The desert is warm now. Not hot warm like skin remembered under blankets. The silence greets you like an old friend. Not empty, not eerie, just settled. This place no longer demands awe. It invites it. Your footprints are the only new marks. The wind, soft and ribbon-thin, tugs at your hair, but doesn't move the sand beneath you. Not yet. You find it easily, the place where the matriarch stood. You don't need coordinates. It's marked by presence, that deep hum in your ribs, the memory that lives somewhere behind your lungs. You sit down. You don't need to see them. You know they're here, beneath the sand, beneath the ice, beneath every echo the land has learned to keep secret. The herd remains in formation. One calf curled like a question. One bull statuo turning his head. One matriarch lifting her foot but never letting it fall. They're not gone. They're just below the sentence. You close your eyes, and slowly the story returns, not in images but in rhythm. The stomp of woolly feet, the soft trill of a calf, the air humming with pressure before the world remembered how to freeze. You lie back, and the sand receives you gently. It presses along your shoulders, your spine, the backs of your knees. The last light of the day stretches over the horizon and pools around your body like a second skin. Odd fact, some deserts form above ancient lakes. Beneath dunes older than language, you can sometimes find the ghosts of shorelines, traces of freshwater algae in dried-up sand. The desert remembers how to swim. The air is cooling now. The stars arrive one by one, but you keep your eyes closed. You feel the pulse of something older than bones. A heartbeat beneath the surface. A storm caught mid-turn. A song written in frost paused forever between verses. And the whisper of fur against wind. You breathe deeply, not because you're tired, because you're finally still enough to hear it. The hum. The silence. The weight of pause. You whisper, "I'm here." The sand presses back warm and quiet. It knows. It always did. The desert storm that froze a mammoth tribe mid-step wasn't just a weather event. It was a moment torn from time, stitched into the earth, and hidden beneath layers of stillness and sand. You walked among them, not as a scientist, not as a storyteller, but as someone chosen by silence. You saw the warning signs, the strange sky, the marching ants, the calf that hesitated while the rest obeyed the rhythm of ancient instinct. You heard the sound that came from nowhere and everywhere, not loud, but final. You felt the freeze descend, not with ice, but with removal choice ripped away in a moment that stretched longer than memory. Then came the burial. The snow and ash folding gently over fur and tusks, sealing the herd in an eternal pose. One by one they vanished into the dunes, their bodies remembered only by the curve of a rib, the glint of a tusk, the shape of their paws. But the story didn't vanish. It moved. Into stone, into petroglyph, into the quiet eyes of people who listened. And you returned. To find the myth had become a map, and the map had become your trail. And beneath it all the mammoths still stand. Waiting. Not for rescue, not for resurrection, for remembrance. So now you lie in the same basin, breath, slowing heartbeat, sinking with a rhythm older than time. You become part of the stillness. Not frozen, listening.